Okay, folks, are you tired of hearing from me yet? I'm hoping this will help a little. I'm going to, of course, be making comments on what you've written, but I'm hoping that some of the stories I've shared and some of the background will help you to some degree. One of the comments that was made talked about, Chris, you made it again with putting statements in writing so people try not to take advantage. And I think the written statement is our protection. That's where the handbook comes in. Supervisors need to make sure that they are well aware of what the handbook says and what the code of ethics are. And again, you need to be able to make decisions according to circumstances. Going way back with a situation, I had my oldest son one night when I was at work at a motel. My son walks in. I had dropped him off at football, and my son walks in, and I'm like, "What are you doing here? I dropped you off." And he said, "Well, there was going to be a fight at the football field, and I left, and I walked here." Oh, cool. I was pretty impressed. So the next day, he is in gym class, and the school is supposed to, or was supposed to at that time, make sure that there was an adult in the locker room as well as in the gymnasium. And unfortunately, for some reason, both adults were in the locker room. And so as Travis was walking into the locker room, the four boys that were going to fight at the football field jumped him. And he immediately did not fight back because, there's a time to fight and a time not to fight, I guess, at times. And so he had told him to quit, leave him alone. He was going in the locker room and whatnot. Well, consequently, as luck would have it, as the adult was coming out, Travis finally swung. Well, by this time, Travis had been hurt. In fact, I got a call from the school that said I needed to come and get him and take him to the doctor, but also there was going to be an in-school suspension because he was fighting. So I went to the school and picked him up and took him to the doctor, and so consequently I have a medical expense. So I go in to talk to the principal, and I said to them, so what's going to happen with the other boys? I said, you said there's going to be an in-school suspension here, which I don't condone fighting. But what about the other boys? Well, we never saw them swing. And I said, well, wait a minute. They didn't swing, and yet I now have a major medical bill because I had to take him to the doctor because he was injured. And you broke protocol by the fact that you didn't have an adult in there at the same time as there should have been. So the principal, whom I went to school with him, we were classmates, we graduated together. He pulls out a handbook and he starts reading to me. Word for word, verbatim, here's what needs to happen. And I said, I understand that, but I said, I have no problem with the fact that if he gets in school suspension, the other boys get in school suspension too. Well, we didn't see them swing. So I said, well, apparently you have no authority then. You have to follow this book. And he's like, well, I'm the principal. I can do whatever I want. I said, no, I don't think you can, because I said, number one, you just read to me from the book. You haven't deviated from that. And I said, yet with the circumstances, I said, I've already told you, if he has in-school suspension, which for fighting, that I understand that, but I want the other boys to have in-school suspension as well. And he argued with me. And I said, well, let me tell you how this would go down. I said, if you were to push or shove me in an area, I said I would only take it for so long. And then what's going to happen is the simple fact that I'm probably going to swing and I'm going to knock you on your ass. Plain and simple. And I walked out of his office. Probably not the best language to use with a principal, but considering we'd known each other for many years, I just kind of let him have it. As it ended up, he did make a decision that all of the boys would have in-school suspension. And, like I said, you can read to me, you can have things in writing, but there also needs to be some common sense used with it. And Trav got his in-school suspension. The other boys did theirs. It needed to be consistent. And again, I had no problem following those rules. But having it in black and white was a benefit. And I think we need to pay attention to those. But again, we need to make note that we also have to be an investigator and find out all the details. The other thing I want to say about, these tests that we take at the beginning of the units is, I think sometimes it depends on the day. I have taken the Strengths Finder 5 times, and I've had the opportunity to go and be trained in it. So I've seen all of my the 34 strengths listed, and every time I've taken the Strengths Finder, my top 10 always remain the same, which is great. And I still think, though, that some of that probably means that it's a very valid test, but the rest of them, my top 5 sometimes move around a little, and I think some of that has to do with the day. And I think some of this, as we've taken these tests, probably has to do with the day as well. I might change my answers on a different day. So what I want to tell you is you guys are doing fantastic. I love the fact that your discussion now is asking questions, which I had asked you to do, your responses. You guys are blowing me out of the water. Your papers are great. I'm going to be going back through and making some statements here. I'm going to wait to hear from you a little bit before I post the next video series, because if enough people say, look, this ain't working, then we're not going to do it. Then I'll go back to typing. If it is helping, let me know. If there's things you want me to change, different topics, post them and I'll change them. But I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the rest of what you put together, and we're going to go from there. Thanks.